Hi everyone, in today's video I've got a couple of jobs that I'd like to tackle and I thought I'd bring you along. It's a lovely warm day, although the sun's gone in and I have a feeling it might rain. So I'm going to rush around the garden doing these few jobs in the hope that I get them done before it rains. I thought I'd bring you along with me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to be tying in my star jasmine to this pergola. Now this is a pergola that, well, it's an arch really. We put it up last year and we planted the star jasmine last year, and one of them I think is suffering from a bit of stress, but I'm going to tie them in and hope for the best. I'm also going to be planting some crocosmia, and this is a little bit of a breakthrough for me because they're sort of apricot-y yellow in colour, and I really don't tend to plant those sort of colours. I mean, I plant apricot but maybe not so yellow in my garden. I am also going to be pruning back my snowberry bushes, and I'm going to be showing you a trick with shrub roses that I'm borrowing from somebody called Klaus Dalby. Now if you don't know him, he's a fantastic gardener. He's got the most beautiful garden, and he showed us all a way to produce more rose blooms on a shrub rose, and I thought I would try my hand at this year with my hollow car roses outside the kitchen. And then if I've got time, I'm going to be sowing some clarkia seeds and also Melope Vulcan, because I did not have a successful sowing of those, so I want to try again. Anyway, let's get started with this star jasmine here. So this is the large archway. I mean, this was a massive archway that Richard and I put up, and we had a little bit of difficulty because this side is much higher than this side. So we nearly toppled over when we were putting it up. That's quite an amusing video. If you want to watch it, I'll link it in the description below. This archway was kindly gifted to us from Harrod Horticultural, and we absolutely love it. It's beautiful, it's huge, it's stunning, and I can't wait for it to be covered in the star jasmine. So I've got one star jasmine planted at the base here, and I've got another one planted at the base here, and this one is very pinky red, and I think it's suffering from stress. I've done a little bit of research, but I'm going to tie them both in anyway and give them a bit of a feed and see whether that helps. So I'm just going to be using ordinary garden twine to tie the star jasmine in. This was such a small plant last year that I didn't really bother tying it in. I just kind of wound it around a few times. Oh, I did tie it in there, but actually it's come off. So that's the benefit of garden twine, is that it disintegrates, so it's compostable. So this one I think has suffered a little bit with frost damage, and it probably would have got quite a bit of the frost. It didn't look like this a few weeks ago, so this is definitely recent frost damage. I'm not going to worry too much. I think those leaves will just fall off, and then it will carry on growing. The rest of it still looks quite healthy. Well, I think that looks much better. I did chop off a little bit down at the bottom where the leaves were very brown. I just kind of pruned that bit back. But all the rest of it, actually what I've seen is that the star jasmine, if you wind it round the trusses or whatever they are, the poles, it stays in that curved shape, so that's really handy to know. So I don't think it needs as much tying in as maybe I thought, but I am going to tie on the other side and I'll show you how red it looks. This is what we're dealing with here. All the leaves have gone kind of russet coloured, a bit like an apple red, I think. And I've looked it up and I think it's due to stress. It could be because it's planted right next to our eucalyptus hedge that we cut back the other day, but it's actually quite far away from any of the trunks. So perhaps just this border doesn't get as much rain. I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to recover. Like, the leaves don't feel dead. They're not coming off when you give them a tug. They're not dropping. So I think it probably will recover, and I'm going to tie it in the hope that it does. tied both sides in now, I'm going to give them a feed. I'm just going to sprinkle some normal, ordinary, multi-purpose fertiliser. So just a general fertiliser for growing plants, and we use this a lot in our garden. I'll put it in the description below because a lot of people ask me what I'm sprinkling, but this is what I'm sprinkling, and I'm going to sprinkle it at the base of both of these star jasmine. It's Tracheospernum jasminoides. I love saying that name, but most people know it as star jasmine, so that's what I'm calling it. So this is the grass border. We were out here the other weekend doing loads of stuff, and Richard has now mulched it beautifully, which I'm going to mess up a bit today. So the crocosmia what's happening with my voice? The crocosmia that I'm planting is called George Davison, and it's one of the earliest to flower. It's possibly one of the shorter ones as well, but it's got gorgeous apricot-y yellow trumpet-shaped flowers. I mean, all crocosmia have trumpet-shaped flowers. And I know crocosmia is not super popular at the moment, but actually I do think it adds something. And we've got a red one. I don't know what it's called. It was here when we arrived, and I think just bulbs have gathered in that one spot. But we have a red one that I really think adds something to the border that it's in, and so I'm loath to dig it out, even though I don't have anything ready orange in that border at all. But I want to add the apricot-y yellow flowers to this border because it's the grass border, so it has those sort of autumnal vibes to it, but it also has some blues in here, and it's just got that sort of sway, lots of motion, swaying motion in this border, and I think the crocosmia is just going to enhance that. I've got just 15 crocosmia bulbs. This is what they look like. They're like this, pointy end up, as with most bulbs, and with crocosmia they actually want quite a lot of goodness in the soil, so I'm going to put a tiny bit of compost at the base of my hole. Now we're supposed to plant them so there's 2 to 3 inches of soil above the bulb, so you plant them 3 to 4 inches deep, something like that, and you space them about 6 to 8 inches apart. I'm actually going to plant mine, I've got 15 bulbs, so I'm going to do 3 patches of 5 bulbs, and I might not necessarily space them 6 to 8 inches apart because I want impact this year. Now these are supposed to flower between July and August because they're slightly earlier flowering, and that's quite important to me this year because we've got a wedding celebration in our garden in July, so with any luck, these will be in flower then, and I do think they're going to add something special to this border. They like full sun, they prefer full sun, but you can plant them in part shade. I'm just going to dot them around in this border where I think they'll fit in with the plants I've got there at the moment. And I'm not going to bother too much about sun or shade because actually I think in July and August they're just going to get full sun anyway. So we've got our first flowering cherry in the garden is in flower, and it's the first one every single year, and this one is called Kojonomai. And it's so pretty. So I've just moved the mulch out of the way. This is a Verbena bonariensis. I don't know whether it's still alive. I'm going to leave it in there just in case it is, because that'll be a nice purple pop. But the place that I've chosen to plant these is in amongst these white rose campions. So we've got 3 bunches of white rose campion here. last place I'm planting them is right next to this Cotinus ruby glow, which has the most incredible deep reddy maroon leaves, and I think the apricot yellow of the crocosmia is just going to be wonderful right next to it. So the Cotinus grows to 1.8 meters wide, so I have spaced them a little bit away so they're not right in the bush, but hopefully they're just going to be right next to each other, and apricot yellow and the purpley red I think are just going to be a wonderful clash. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut back this snowberry bush. They're called Symphoricarpus, I think that's how you say it. But they're snowberries and they come in pink or white. This is a pink one and I've got a white one behind you. So I'm just going to cut it back, and I do this every spring. I cut it back before it leaves out. I can see buds starting to form. So this is the perfect time to do it. And then it will produce loads and loads. Can you see how many branches there are, and loads of berries next year? And I don't do anything special when I'm cutting it back. I don't even pay attention to crossing branches or anything like that. I literally just grab hold of a branch. I mean, if you can just go back to a bud. That's always good practice. But I honestly have never really paid that much attention when I'm cutting it back. You can just sort of grab some and cut it back. And this plant is fantastic. It just grows back. Well, it looks a little bit like a dead bush at the moment, but it's going to be absolutely wonderful and it will leaf out. And fortunately, it's hidden by the Viburnum tinus Lisa Rose, which is absolutely glorious and in full flower at the moment. I will need to do some remedial cutting back of the viburnum once it's finished flowering. I'll just kind of lift the canopy above the snowberry bush. Well, that was not fun. There were a lot of brambles in there and I've been pricked. But I've cut it back. As far as I want to cut it back, I need to get bigger loppers just to deal with a couple of the thicker stems because my secateurs couldn't manage. So I'll do that another day. But I also just decided to cut down the hydrangea Annabelle that was in front of it. There are actually brambles growing up through the crown of that Annabelle hydrangea. So I think that's probably what's killed it. Although I did see when I cut one of the stems that there was some green inside. So I might try and dig it up and separate it and put it somewhere else because I love Annabelle hydrangea, but it's not surviving there in amongst all the brambles. So let's go and do something a little bit more fun now. So this is the spot where I have 3 Harlow roses. I love them because the fragrance is fantastic. So as we walk out of our kitchen, we get accosted by this wonderful scent. They are also the most prickly roses I have. I don't think I have a rose with quite so many spines. But there were some really long branches as I was pruning them back a few weeks ago, and I decided to leave them and do what Klaus has showed us. So what we are supposed to do, apparently, in order to get more blooms from your shrub roses, is you can tie in long stems and sort of make them art. So it's a little bit like with climbing roses. If we grow them horizontally, the buds are stimulated into action and they start producing shoots, and those shoots will have flowers on the end. So if we do the same thing with a shrub rose and train some of the branches horizontally, then I'm assuming I'm going to get more roses. Now, I can't remember which rose Klaus did this with, but he's definitely got a video on his channel. I can't remember which video it is either, but I don't know if you watch him, but anyway, I'm going to show you what he did. I don't know whether I can do it with hollow car, but I'm going to try it and I'll show you why I think it's going to work. So these are the long stems. Can you see all the spines on those? And because I left these long, and I left these little buds on the end, the very top of this long stem is where the little buds have started shooting, but all the buds further down the stem have not started shooting. But if we were to lie it horizontally, like this, it would stimulate all these little buds here to produce more shoots as well, and that way we'll get more roses. That's the theory, and so I'm going to try this year. Now, you could use anything to peg down your rose. I happen to have these stakes, and each one, I mean, they're all different lengths, so I don't know which length I'm going to need, but each one's sort of got this hoop on the end that I can wrap around the stem and pull it down. So this is what I'm going to use, but by all means use anything that you can get hold of to hold down your stems. So I am just going to put this on here and pull it down. Like that. So now all the little nodes on here, so like I can see a little node here, I can see one here, I can see one here. So these will all start shooting and they'll look like these ones at the end, and then each one of those will have flowers. And I'm just going to do that with all of these. Really don't want to touch this spiny rose. There we go. So it's just started spitting and there was thunder. So I'm going to really quickly sow my clarkia seeds. I'm going to tell you which ones I'm sowing, and then I'm just going to sow them. I'm going to sow them on the surface of moist compost, and I'm going to sprinkle them with vermiculite and then put them on my heat mats. They're going to take between 7 and 14 days to germinate, and they should reach maturity in 75 to 90 days. So in about 3 months' time, we should have flowers. And they like to be at 18 to 20 degrees, I think, or 15 to 20 degrees. So that's why I'm putting them on the heat mats with the domed lid on top to keep the seeds moist. So I am sowing today Enchantress, I'm sowing Apple Blossom, and I'm sowing White. And then I'm also resowing my Melope Vulcan because I had a complete failure with that. So Enchantress is this gorgeous sort of apricot colour with red stamens, and it's very eye-catching, quite bright, which is what Tom and Maud would like for their wedding. So that's why I've chosen Enchantress. I'm sowing quite heavily, but you really don't need to. You could just put one seed into each cell. But this is the way I'm sowing because I'm in a rush because it's raining on me. So I'm now going to bottom water these by putting them in a tray of water, and then I'll put them on my heat mats, and I will keep you updated in a seedling update and show you how they're doing. I really hope you found my jobs in the garden today fun and interesting. I've had a great time being outside. It's lovely and warm today, but it is raining on me. So we're kind of having this sort of very humid, warm atmosphere, but I cannot wait for spring, and I cannot wait for everything to start flowering. And I just think the Prunus Kojonomai is looking absolutely gorgeous at the moment. It fills me with joy. It's always the first to flower. I highly recommend it, especially if you've got a small garden, because it really doesn't get very big. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.